The exact origins of anime is difficult to pinpoint, but its roots can be traced all the way back to 7th century Japan, to emakimono, also known as emaki. Emakimono is the art of illustrated narrative scrolls that tells visual stories, historical events, religious tales, landscapes, and various scenes, often accompanied by calligraphy. They can be quite long, ranging from a few feet to many meters in length, and are typically unrolled horizontally from right to left to reveal the story as it unfolds. Emakimono is essentially a visual narrative, like reading a book or watching a film, with each section revealing a new part of the story. Then comes ukiyo-e. It was a style of art that emerged in Japan from the 7th century. It consisted of woodblock prints and paintings that depicted various aspects of life and culture, such as beautiful women, actors, wrestlers, historical and mythical events, landscapes, plants, animals, and eroticism. The name ukiyo-e means pictures of floating world, and staying true to that name, ukiyo-e prints were colorful and lively. They created a visual narrative that appealed to many people in Japan during the Edo period. At this point, we should also mention kage. It's a form of puppetry that beats life into stories through the interplay of light and shadow. A talented puppeteer can make the figures appear to walk, dance, or fight. Shadow play is popular in various countries and cultures, among both children and adults. More than 20 countries are known to have shadow play shows. It does not exclusively belong to Japan, but the effect on the culture of moving stories is undeniable. It is believed that those art styles were the seeds of animation culture in Japan, and they carried it all the way to 19th century. According to some experts, the first animated film produced in Japan may have rooted from early as 1907, known as Katusdo Shasin, which meant activity photo. It is a short animation of a boy in sailor suit drawing some characters. The film was first found in 2005. It was created by 50 frames drawn directly onto a strip of celluloid. The first confirmed animated film shown in Japan was at 1912 by Emil Cole. It is the first recorded account of public showing of a two-dimensional animated film in Japanese cinema. Right after that, US and European cartoons started to appear in theaters, inspiring Japanese creators like Junichi Koichi and Seitaro Kitayama, both of whom were considered the fathers of anime. In this period of Japanese animation, almost all of them were in commercial nature. After the clips had been run, reels, being property of the cinemas, were sold to smaller cinemas in the country and then disassembled and sold as strips or single frames. They all disappeared inside the history of animation. Unfortunately, no known example survived. The first confirmed Japanese animation to show up in theaters had to wait until 1917. It was Dekobo Shingacho, Man no Shippai. Bumpy New Picture Book, Failure of a Great Plan. Its commercial success encouraged the artists and proved that there is a market for this art. That led to first anime short films, which mainly three major figures behind their creation. One of those pioneers was Otan Shimokawa. He was a political caricaturist and cartoonist who worked for magazine Tokyo Pug. He was hired by Tenkatsu to do an animation for them. Due to medical reasons, he was only able to do 5 movies. Another prominent animator in this period was Junichi Koichi. He was a caricaturist and painter, who also had studied watercolor painting. In 1912, he also entered the animation sector by being hired by Kobayashi Shokai to do an animation for them. He is viewed as the most technically advanced Japanese animator of the 1910s. His work included around 15 movies. The third was Seitaro Kitayama, an early animator who made animations on his own. He eventually founded his own animation studio, the Kitayama Eiga Seisakujo. which later closed due to lack of commercial success. He utilized the chalkboard technique and later paper animation. However, the work of these pioneers were unfortunately destroyed after the Great Kanto earthquake of 1923. Pre-war animators faced several difficulties. First, they had to compete with the foreign producers such as Disney, which were influential on both audiences and producers. Foreign films had already made a profit at best and could be undersold in Japanese market at a price lower than what domestic producers need to break even. Japanese animation industry, struggling to compete with larger, better funded foreign companies producing color, sound, and heavily promoted products, was forced to rely on small companies with only few employees who had to work cheaply. Until mid-30s, Japanese animation generally used cutout animation instead of cel animation because the celluloid was too expensive. This resulted in animations that could seem flat, since motion forward and backward was difficult, and without detail. But post-war Japanese animators were able to turn this limited animation style into an asset. Masters such as Yusoji Murata and Noburo Ofuji were able to perform wonders with cutout animations. However, animators such as Kenzo Masaoka and Mitsuyo Seo did attempt to bring Japanese animation up to the level of foreign work by introducing cel animation, sound, and technology such as multiplane camera. Masaoka created the first talking anime, released in 1933, followed by Mitsuyo Seo. He was the first to use multiplane camera in Ari-chan in 1941. Such innovations, however, were difficult to support purely by a couple of innovative artists. So pre-war animation depended considerably on sponsorship. Animators often concentrated on making PR films for companies or education films for government and eventually works of propaganda for the military. During this time, censorship and school regulations discouraged children from viewing films. But the Ministry of Education supported and encouraged educational animation. This was important for producers who had experienced obstacles releasing their work in regular theaters. Animation had found a place in scholastic, political, and industrial use. In 1930s, the Japanese government began enforcing cultural nationalism. This led more of strict censorship and control of published media. Many animators were urged to produce animations that enforced Japanese spirit and national pride. Some movies were shown in newsreel theaters, especially after the Film Law of 1939, which promoted documentary and other educational films, but that helped to boost the industry. Major live-action studios such as Shochiku began producing animations. During the World War II, more and more animated films were started to be commissioned by the Imperial Japanese Army. This included films such as Momotaro, Secret Sailors in 1943, which mainly focused on the Japanese occupation of Asia. After the war, Japan was poor and demoralized. While other entertainment sectors required substantial production and investment, manga and anime relied mostly on pen, paper, ingenuity, and hard work. Japan had all of these resources, so manga and anime began to flourish. There were two major forces when it comes to post-war Japanese animation: Toei Animation and Mushi Production Studio. Toei founded right after the war and published its first animation at 1958. It was Hakujaden, The Tale of the White Serpent. It released in the US in 1961 with the name Panda and the Magic Serpent. After the success of this, Toei started to produce a new feature-length animation every year. A major contribution of Toei's style to modern anime was the development of the money shot. This cost-cutting method of animation allows for focus to be placed on important shots by animating them with more detail than the rest of the work. Toei animators began to experiment with this style and developed it further as their products started to show up in television at 1980s. Toei would later lend its talent to companies like Sambo Productions, Marvel Productions, DIC Entertainment, Murakami Wolf Svensson, Ruby Spears, and Hanna-Barbera, producing several animated cartoons for America during this period. Other studios like TMS Entertainment were also being used in the 90s, which led to Asian studios being used more often to animate foreign products, and that gave them invaluable experience. Studios started to use that experience to produce better animations in Japan. Osamu Tezuka was a young animator working at Toei, but he left there in 1961 and formed his own animation studio and named it Mushi Production. It was the years of Japanese animation started to form its unique style, like those big eyes. Osamu was heavily influenced by Disney animations. His father often took him to watch them when he was a child. He was immediately obsessed by the world of animation. And when he grew up, that led him to push the animation to the commercial status we know today, with Astroboy. While there were other productions before Astroboy, it elevated animation to a commercial product. It is first shown on Fuji TV on January 1st, 1963, and it was a big success. But the main importance of it was finding audience for itself at West, especially in the United States. It became popular and influenced US popular culture. It opened the door to American companies acquiring various titles from Japanese producers, and that led the Japanese animation industry having more resources. So basically, Osamu Tezuka opened the gates of Japanese commercial animation, the anime, to the world with Astroboy. He also produced Kimba the White Lion, based on his own manga, which was a success and was on television on United States. It's a major discussion even today how The Lion King tells almost the same story scene by scene, but that was denied by Disney vigorously. Astro Boy's commercial success in Japan influenced and inspired not only the industry but the stories too. Japan was ready to bring the science fiction to animation world. Astro Boy is followed by a large number of animes about robots and space, which started the age of Mecha. Even though Astro Boy marked the start of sci-fi in Japanese animation, the concept of mecha can be traced all the way back to 60s with Tetsujin 28 Go, known as Gigantor in the West. The black and white classic introduced audiences to a colossal robot controlled by a young boy, foreshadowing a recurring theme in mecha anime. The unlikely hero commanding a powerful machine which solidified the word mecha as genre, which was soon about to take over the world of animation. The main story was usually powerful and slick giant robots, piloted by usually teen heroes, defending Earth against menacing alien threats or evil organizations. As the 1980s dawned, mecha anime diversified. Mobile Suit Gundam marked a turning point with its mature storytelling, political intrigue, and complex characters. Around the same time, Macross and Transformers introduced transforming mecha, adding a new layer of innovation to the genre. At 1990s, mecha anime continued to evolve with Neon Genesis Evangelion. Evangelion challenged conventions by delving into psychological and existential subjects. Meanwhile, Gurren Lagann bring the excitement, energy, and over-the-top action that we mecha fans love. Mecha anime has become a global phenomenon. Iconic series like Voltron introduced Japanese mecha to international audiences, leaving an undeniable mark. And then there was Ghibli. Founded by Hayao Miyazaki and Isao Takahata in 1985, and started the golden era of the Japanese animation. He released a string of critically and commercially successful masterpieces during this period, including Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, My Neighbor Totoro, Kiki's Delivery Service, Princess Mononoke, and Spirited Away. Miyazaki's films were groundbreaking in a number of ways. He was one of the first anime directors to consistently produce feature-length films, and his work was known for its high-quality animation, complex characters, and environmentally conscious themes. Miyazaki's films also had a significant impact on international popularity of anime. They continue to be enjoyed by audiences of all ages around the world. Miyazaki's work has had a profound influence on many anime directors and filmmakers in Japan, including Makoto Shinkai, Mamoru Hosoda, and Hiroyuki Imaishi. Miyazaki has a complex view of anime. He has been critical of the industry's reliance on otaku culture, which he believes has led to a decline in the quality of animation. He also criticized the industry's focus on commercial success at the expense of artistic integrity. In a 1914 interview, Miyazaki said, "Anime is a powerful medium, but it's also a dangerous one. It can be used to create beautiful and inspiring work of art, but it can also be used to create harmful and destructive work. It is important to remember that anime is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad." The Miyazaki era on anime came to an end in 2013, when Miyazaki announced his retirement from directing feature films. However, his legacy still continues to inspire anime directors and filmmakers around the world. The masters like Miyazaki and the classical masterpieces they produced made anime start to gain more and more popularity while the digital age arrived. The shift began in late 90s and early 2000s from traditional cel animation to digital production, and it had a profound impact on anime industry. One of the main benefits of digital animation was that it was much more efficient than traditional cel animation. With digital animation, artists could create and edit animation frames much more quickly and easily. This followed animation studios to produce more content at lower costs. Additionally, digital animation has made it easier to produce anime that is specifically tailored to international audiences. The Pokémon anime was one of the first anime series to be produced entirely using digital animation. The series premiered in 1997, and it has been a global phenomenon ever since. One of the things that made Pokémon important was it helped to popularize anime for young audience internationally, which led to a generation of anime lovers around the world. Today, anime is a global phenomenon. It is inspiring countless other forms of art and entertainment, from video games to live-action movies, and it is introducing Japanese culture to the world. Future looks bright for Japanese anime. According to a report by Grandview Research, the global anime market worth more than $28 billion at 2022. There are over 400 anime production companies in Japan, producing animes to more than 55 million fans only in the United States. However, the anime industry is also facing some challenges. One of the biggest is rising cost of production. Anime is a very labor-intensive medium, and it can cost millions of dollars to produce a single episode, even with the digital workflow. With today's audience, to achieve even a moderate commercial success, the work needs high level of detail and animation, and that leads to the extreme work hours with almost ridiculous deadlines, done by artists paid extremely low compared to work they done. But even with those issues, modern era anime managed to create some cult classics, and it is almost impossible to mention all of them. But there are some that have undeniably earned their place in Anime Hall of Fame, like Death Note, Ghost in the Shell, Akira, and some new global phenomenons like Demon Slayer, Your Name, Silent Voice, Attack on Titan, Jujutsu Kaisen, and many, many more. And it seems it will continue to do so in the future. Anime is a constantly changing form of entertainment that keeps pushing its limits. It can whisk us away to incredible places, introduce us to different cultures, and stir our feelings. It is something that has a little something for everyone. If you listened to me this far, thank you. Take care of yourselves, calm down, and stay safe. Goodbye for now.